I think it's important for us to talk about it as a family, because I believe that what's happening, and researchers describe it as continuous partial attention, that we only pay partial attention to any one thing at a given time. And it's just continuous partial attention. And what that means is you're never paying full attention to any one thing. It's like we move from our to-do list to the next thing to the next thing. And I hear so many people say, well, how do I even get rid of my iPhone? How do I get rid of a phone?
You are listening to the Famous at Home podcast with Dr. Josh and Christi Straub.
Because when it's all said and done, we all want to know that we were famous at home. Welcome back to the Famous at Home podcast. Today we are talking about screens and your family. Before we do, here is a word from our sponsors. All right, so this is our first time back actually recording in the new year here. So you finished the Words That Matter for your family series. We hope you enjoyed that. And I hope the whole point of doing that series for us was an opportunity for you to be able to go back and listen to really those as a series and use them, whether it's in your church, whether it's in your home, whether it's in a small group or that type of thing, to use those as a resource to go back to. And so we hope that you're able to do that. We did come to that. And Sandra Stanley joined us last week. Hope you got to listen to that episode. This week, we are talking about screens because we've made some changes in our family, but we are back. We're excited. We've got a lot of fun things going on, and I can't wait to share about a bunch of different things.
Well, and it's been fun too, because you hear snippets as we share on the podcast, and we've had a lot of questions about some of the stuff we have talked about. And I love it because it's like real practical, and you can tell people are really wrestling with it. They really want to know. When Josh shared about converting his to a dumb phone, basically getting rid of his smartphone, like, oh my goodness, I want to do this. Like, how do you practically do this? And we've had so many great questions. And a lot of people we find that are part of the Famous at Home community, they are either entrepreneurs or they run some sort of side businesses. So they're using social media and they're having to interact. Plus, we're just in this generation that, we use FaceTime to communicate with grandma and grandpa. Like, how do you practically do this? So we wanted to actually do an episode about screens and the reason we've chosen what we've chosen, how we've done it, and also make a couple little announcements too, because we started something new in 2023 that will be coming to your inbox. If you are an email subscriber to Famous at Home, you will have already gotten it. If you haven't subscribed, this is your invitation to do so. We would love for you to be part of that with us. Part of, I think, us even just detaching somewhat from social media, not that we'll ever totally go off social media for Famous at Home, but is that we actually have contact with you personally. And, if Instagram goes down or if Facebook or whatever, I mean, we know how that works. And so we would love to actually be able to contact you. And we know that really the best way to do that is via email. And so we want to be able to share things with you that really don't translate as well on podcast. They're a little, I think, more vulnerable and
totally, and that's what happened this week. So newsletter went out this week, and it's the other opportunity for us to, as you've been listening to the podcast, one thing that we haven't done a very good job of is translate people who listen to the podcast, which you're our family. If you're listening, you are our family, to the email inbox and to serve really well there. And there's opportunities, like I was able to be a little bit more transparent and authentic in my email newsletter this week than I even am sometimes on the podcast. Just because I'm sitting down and I have space to write. And we're going to talk about that today with the screen and the changes we made with screen. I have more mental space to write, and therefore I can write a little bit more clearly on some things that it just translates differently. And so the first one went out today, or last week it went out, and it's on simplicity. It's on my soul. It's on what I've done to my phone and why I've done it. And I just remember, first of all, let me just say this. It's in the show notes hit the link. If you're not an email subscriber, subscribe, because we are every week going to be giving you specific content that's exclusive. It's not going on a blog anywhere. It's not going on social media anywhere. It is only going to email subscribers. And so we would love for you to sign up for that. And the whole point.
And can I just say too, even just for our own family's privacy and like protection, because all of this is now on YouTube and, you know, in the whatever I want to say, like the metaverse, there's just, I think, safety in sending this to our family via email. And that's why we've chosen to do that. And it feels just like sending this to friends. And so we're just excited for you to be a part of that.
Yeah. And I think too, you know, for me, what's fascinating about it. So these are some of the initiatives we have. This is a big one for us. And it really came not because of some strategy where we did a whiteboard session. It came out of me getting space in my brain and enjoying writing. And I think for so long I have a love-hate relationship with writing. I think because I've done so much of it, and there's seasons where writing books and things like that, I just get completely burned out from it. But yet it brings me alive when I get to do it out of my heart. And I think that's part of what this is about. So we get to coach you vicariously through the email inbox in that way, through those writings. And so we'd love for you to sign up for that. That's happening right now. My Kids EQ is about ready to launch February 6th. Yeah. We are super stoked about that. We've been amazed at the response for that. And today I want to talk about screens. We were going to share a little bit about our journey as well. Because this is the first time that we've been recording since we've been back in 2023. So we didn't even get to share a little bit about I remember this. I remember seeing this meme. This was my point. I remember seeing this meme. It said something to the effect, it was right before the holidays, where it said, if you show up at your family holiday dinner and you are not the weird one, you're doing something wrong. And so I just want to do weird stuff in my life, not to be weird, but because I genuinely believe it's what's bringing me alive. And that's part of what this episode is about is, and if you are a regular podcast listener, you heard me say this in the beginning or in the latter part of the year, that I wanted to get rid of my phone and get a flip phone. And that's essentially what I did. I did not get rid of my iPhone because the amount of money that it costs to buy it out is just ridiculous. And we actually record our YouTube videos on it. I obviously like it for the pictures and that type of thing, but I made it a flip phone. Like I have deleted literally everything. I even figured out a way to delete Safari off of the iPhone. Bingo. I'm telling you, it's awesome. There's nothing on it in relation to web browsers or anything. It's just great because it's freed me up. I don't have email following me. I don't have stuff following me now. And again, I'm only a few weeks into it, but I think it's important for us to talk about it as a family, because I believe that what's happening, and researchers describe it as continuous partial attention, that we only pay partial attention to any one thing at a given time. And it's just continuous partial attention. And what that means is you're never paying full attention to any one thing. It's like we move from our to-do list to the next thing to the next thing. And I hear so many people say, well, how do I even get rid of my iPhone? How do I get rid of a phone? Like we went to a parking garage last weekend for a double date. And in the parking garage, you have to use your QR code in order to pay for parking. Well, without an iPhone, you can't do that. And so, yes, it is inconvenient. It will inconvenience you.
There was another way on the sign, I will tell you.
Okay.
I can't recall what it said, but it was like, if you can't, I mean, there are other options.
There's other options, and that's...
But it is inconvenient.
Things will inconvenience you. This will be an inconvenience to you. But at the same time, what I'm realizing is that those inconveniences are nothing compared to what it's been given to me. And so I just decided to I just figured I would let my life adjust accordingly and just do it. And so my point is, if there's anything that you listen to today that we talk about in any of the research, in any of the life strategies, what is the thing that's resonating with you the most? And just do it. Don't just stand there, do it. Just do it. I have a friend who says, don't just stand there, do something stupid. Don't do something stupid, but it might look stupid to the rest of the world, but just do something weird.
Well, I think it goes back. Yeah, it goes back. I was just going to say, it goes back to that weird. And I love it that you've taken that on. Again, not that we're ever trying to just be weird, but I think we all need someone to give us permission to be fully ourselves. And because the world's cry is so loud to conform, like be like everyone else. And it's like the voice in the wilderness that's saying, it's actually okay to be the unique one around the family Christmas table. It's actually okay to be the unique one in your circles where your friends are like, what? You're doing what? And what's so interesting is that we've noticed even just the shifts we've made in our life. I mean, over the last number of years, I guess, the number of people that aren't, it's not a what in judgment. It's a like, what? Like, I want to do that too. Yeah. And I think we're all, if we're honest, we're feeling this pull away from, the wide gates and toward this narrow road, and finding other people that are walking it uniquely on their own way is just so freeing. And yet you'll find people that do give you like just the questions we've gotten of like, I tried that. The number of people that have said the exact same thing we ran into, which was the cost of actually trading in your smartphone for, even if you have an old flip phone that you kept, it just didn't make sense. And so I think what Josh has done is super wise, because basically he's just converted it to a flip phone, but with the advantages of what a smartphone offers, like GPS when he travels, or
but even the GPS when I travel is in a library. And so I've been super intentional about not using GPS when I'm in my local area. So I am using a map to get around, or I'm getting there by my brain, and I'm not paying attention to traffic. I'm just going to choose. And if I have to sit in traffic a little extra longer, it gets rid of the sense of hustle and that I have to get somewhere really quickly. I just give myself a little extra time, and I just go the way that I know. And so there's even that component where I'm like, I'm not going to use it only if I have to.
Yeah. Well, you realize how trained we have been to race, like literally Waze. I know that app, if you guys use that one, the only algorithm it is producing is the fastest way. Whereas we looked into this, like Google Maps chooses the safest way. So like the least traffic lights, et cetera, whatever. So it's interesting how we've become a product of this society where it's just like literally get it done the fastest possible.
Yeah, I like it. That's why we use Waze more, because it's like, I can get there faster.
Yeah. But realizing, like, for me, even as a parent, like our kids go to a 2-day-a-week tutorial right now. I don't leave myself enough time. Like I assume the least amount of time. And so I'm always feeling like I'm in a rush, because I'm waking the baby up from a nap to rush to go pick them up from school. And I realize like this whole lifestyle has created, it's true. It puts a body in fight or flight, right? It signals to the nervous system that there's a constant threat that you're trying to rush to protect yourself from. Like I have to hurry in order to be safe. What if if we all started to undo some of that learning, where we realize life is a journey and there's learning in the process. And so there actually isn't a rush to the destination. So even today, this morning, like I just finished this morning of school with the kids, and it was nuts. I think it was like the first sort of day back, and everyone was gung ho. And I just feel like I'm racing from thing to thing to thing, answering questions from 3 children at the same time. And then sweet Josh popping in and being like, hey, by the way, I got, and he has like a work question. And I'm like,
I just pretty much turn around and leave.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hey, Did you feel it though when you walked in?
Every time, 100%.
And it's like, but I realize it's this rushing. Like we're just conditioned to rush and race, and the efficiency of the phone, which is, I mean, in a lot of ways fabulous. Like look what it saves us, but at what cost? And I think that's the question we're talking about today.
So when we come back from the break, I'm going to share a story about this, and we'll get into some more research about it as well. So yeah, like last night is a great example. There's a playoff football game. It's playoff football season right now, playoff football game on. And I know in the past what I would typically do in an evening in the Straub household. We're getting our kids ready for bed. We are maybe playing a game before bed, reading some books, doing some of those types of things. But typically if there's a playoff game on or something of that nature that I want to follow, I have my phone with me nearby so that I can be checking the scores on a consistent basis and just kind of keep up with what's happening. But as I'm doing that, what am I doing? I have my phone with me while I'm in the presence of my kids. I have my phone with me when I'm in the presence of Christi. And last night, I realized I had no clue what the score was during the game. And there were multiple times that I was thinking about the game and going, I wonder what the score is. I wonder, and instead what I'm doing is we're taking our kids through the Chronicles of Narnia right now. So I'm reading the Chronicles of Narnia. We do a chapter out of that. I read a couple stories to our little one before I tuck him into bed. And it's just the whole, you get it. It's the bedtime routine. And I realized that I'm doing this with every single one of the kids. And I didn't have my phone because there's literally nothing to do on my phone. And I realized afterwards, I was like, I was so much more present. But the other big piece of this is that continuous partial attention that we talked about, what it's doing is it's actually inhibiting a child's brain, because what happens is that our kids know that we're paying partial attention to them. They feel the partial attention, and it actually increases anxiety in our children's brains because they know they do not have mom and dad's full 100% attention in any one thing. That's enough for me to be, I'm like, man, convicted over that. And I can't tell you the number of times where I've had my phone in my hand and they're trying to get my attention. And I'm like, I'm not doing that anymore. I just don't want that to be the case. And again, I'm not saying this in judgment at all. We're saying this in encouragement for you to find what is the thing that you need to do to pay full attention, because you want to pay full attention in your own life, even just sitting in your relationship with God, even just having a cup of coffee and taking a deep breath when you wake up in the morning, just to be without paying partial attention to your surroundings because you feel like you have to check your email first thing, or you have to check the news first thing, which I don't do anymore, which is amazing. Any of those types of things are really things, but to me, it's that presence that I noticed last night. And I'm finding this multiple times. Like someone sends me a text message with a link to it. I can't open the link. So if you know me and personally and you text me something, I can't open a link. So it's like not until I can get to a computer during my work hours that I can actually open your text and see what you sent me, which is amazing. I'm enjoying that.
I think what it's done though, it's like organized your day for you. So you're not multitasking, where we've thought of this as like some superpower. It's actually just caused so much discontent and anxiety. And it's like time blocked your days, because opening links, doing all that stuff is done only in work hours, which is what we've wanted.
I can't imagine how much time how much time in a day just goes by. When I first did it the first week, I kept wanting to scroll over because all my other apps would be over there, ESPN, all those things. They're gone. And I would neurologically just have this impulse reaction to want to scroll. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't scroll. Can't go anywhere. And so now and that has actually, I still do it every now and again, but it's slowing down.
That's amazing.
Which I think is really important. So,
and can we just say like the practicals though of what you've kept and what you haven't? Would that be helpful for people to understand? So that it's realistic, because I think that's where people get caught is. I have friends, a friend, she's an entrepreneur and she's like, I want to do this. How do you practically handle like FaceTime with the grandparents? How do you handle
I had
GPS,
that issue.
And
so, yeah. And this is one thing that I would encourage you. And this is what I would say. If you're a follower of our podcast, you're part of our podcast family, subscribe to our email list. Like that's one of the best ways that I would encourage you to support us as we build our email list, because our heart is to not be we'll never go away completely on social media. It's definitely a place we need to be. But there's many of you who are listening. You're influencers. You are social media influencers. You need social media. It's hard to escape it. But I have really good friends who are social media influencers who have learned how to navigate it as well and still do it as minimally as possible. And so it is doable. The key is just deciding. So for me, I just knew I was going to make a decision. And there's a couple different things, and you'll learn about these as the year goes on, because there's decisions I'm making right now with how we're leading our family and what we're doing. I'm just making decisions. I'm just going and I'm just doing. And if it falls flat, it falls flat, but I'm just doing stuff. I'm not going to just sit idly by, which has been a tendency of mine. I am just going to do it. And so this was one thing I just did, and I just figured I'd let my life adjust accordingly. I'd figure out the phone accordingly. And so what I've done is I have 4 different, you might think I'm crazy, I have 4 different Lectio apps. I have Pray As You Go, Lectio 365, Lectio for Families, and then the Pause app from John Eldredge. And I use all 4 of those at varying times, just in terms of my ability to center, to do a roll of life, that type of thing. We can talk more about that sometime. By the way, if you're interested in that, you can go to famousathome.com/podcast. We'll put it in show notes today. If you have any questions or topics you want to talk about on the podcast, that's our platform for you. We just revamped the website. We didn't even mention that. We revamped the website.
We did.
It looks amazing. We just feel like we got it streamlined finally into what we do. Go check that out. But go to the podcast page, because at the bottom of the podcast page, it's a place for you, the podcast listener. Put your concerns, your questions, topics you want covered, that type of thing. Put those in there. But in that process, I don't remember where I was at. I was saying about, I have apps. So I have those 4 apps there, and
I use 2 of those too.
So I use those apps, and then the other thing I have is I have 2 calendar apps. One of them is a handwritten calendar app, because I use for my iPad because I love handwritten stuff. And then the other one is a Google Calendar to keep our family in sync. And then the other 2 apps, I only have 8 apps on the main home screen. Like when you look at it, the 4 Lectio apps, I've got the 2 calendar apps. And then I have got, and I'm trying to remember what the other ones are. I've got podcasts and photos. Those are my podcasts and photos. And then on the bottom, I've got phone, text, and I'm still using text. I have friends who have gone completely away from text altogether. We'll see where that leads. I have phone and text still, and then I've got music at the bottom as well. I thought there was another one down there, but I can't remember what that one is.
FaceTime?
Music, and I had to put FaceTime back on because I realized I deleted it, and then I had no way of connecting and talking to my parents, which wasn't a good idea. So...
but those are the things you learn as you go. And I think that's why it's actually been a great asset to keep the smartphone, but with the diligence and the restrictions of
there's no email. Yeah, exactly. There's no email. There's no web browsers. I got Safari off of there. I've got all, and
for when you travel, like when you're going to speak, you'll need Uber.
So I have Uber, and then I have Waze and Google Maps, but they're in the app library. And what am I going to do while I'm playing cards with my kids? Go look at Google Maps. There's nothing to do on my phone. Like even the apps that I have, there's absolutely nothing to do. Which is amazing. I did keep my workout app, because there's times where I just need to. I have my phone with me, and I can use my workout app to work out. But it's been life-giving. It's been unbelievably life-giving. You'll be hearing me talk about this probably throughout the whole year, and just different ways that I've adjusted. But I just really want to encourage you, because we have seen this. You cannot convince me otherwise. I genuinely believe that the screen has been one of the single greatest causes of the increased epidemic levels of anxiety and depression in our culture, and relational issues. Yeah. And I think that we as believers, and we should be paving the way. Yeah. We should be living it out. And so everyone's ears might be perking up going, I do, or your defense mechanisms might be going, I don't know there's no way I could do this. Not with my job. I've talked to so many people about this. Real estate agents, they're like, I need it for this. And I get that. I totally get that. Mm-hmm. But I had talked to one real estate agent yesterday who was like, I know I could be minimizing way more of what I'm doing on my phone. And so,
and like for me, if I just talk about my example, because I haven't my phone, if you were to look at it today, it looks different. But I have no social media. I handle all the finances for our family, as well as like all the ordering, right? So all the groceries, all the Amazon, whatever, deliveries, all that stuff, dog food, all of it. Plus the kids stuff, which, our kids' little tutorial, like they use some other app to communicate. So I have to have those apps. I have to be able to communicate. I have to be able to open emails from the school on my phone, because I'm not on my computer every day like Josh is. So we realized, for me, I have to keep email on there, but it's not like I can assure I'm just not addicted to email. I promise you.
I need you to be on email though. For what we do.
I tend to not be great at responding to email, but so really all the things that I took off all social media, like including Pinterest, like things that like I would just go to that were just time wasters. And obviously you can be like, but that's great inspiration. And it was, I justified it for a super long time. I'm trying without it for a while, and I haven't missed it. So, I do have GPS on there. I have photo, like all the same stuff that Josh has, but I do have internet browsers, and then I have like a whole folder of just my ordering things, because I'm the one who handles all that. And I need to be able to do it from my phone, because sometimes I'm waiting at an appointment or something, and I really can use that time to actually order stuff. And that works well for just the efficiency of our family. But I'm just really aware of like where that efficiency becomes this rushing and this hurrying and this, like when I start to feel that, it's like, no, I can't. I have to try to time block that and put that in a place, as opposed to trying to multitask. And I just know for me, I am not a built multitasker. I actually really struggle with that. It causes anxiety in me, which is why like when the kids are all talking to me at the same time and I'm trying to like teach one kid long division, and like like that causes anxiety, because if I could just sit with one at a time, I'd be a great tutor. Like one-on-one, I'd do really well with that. But that's not the reality. There's 3 children in our house, and I do work. And so I do have to bounce back between, but I have, and we've talked about this before, but like time blocking my days changed so much for me. I don't work the other days of the week. I work 2 days, and only in the hours that I've set, and that's it. And, it's not stopped following me, like Josh said. And that has caused so much more clarity, I think. And like, I actually enjoy what we get to do. And I love that, because when I get to go do it, I'm looking forward to it, because it's not been like weighing on me in all the off moments. Which brings me, by the way, just a real quick, when you mentioned about the new website, so famousathome.com, maybe that's self-explanatory, but probably not. You might probably have never been there. But we have opened new coaching slots for 2023. So that's for individuals, marriages. So I do one-on-one with women. Josh does one-on-one with men. We do marriage ones together. And also intensives. We have intensive openings for 2023. And it has, that in the last, couple years, I guess, has just brought us so much life. And so what we're trying to focus on is less of, like, we do still this online stuff, and it goes out, and I hope that's a blessing to people. And but I don't know that, right? Unless I meet you. And even still, like, I don't get to see you. And so that's why this in-person, like diving deep into people's lives it just brings us life. And so we've opened up more space for that this year, and genuinely are really excited about it. Yeah, and it's allowed even us to travel less, because we're doing it from home. And so if you and your spouse are interested in an intensive, you would come into the Nashville area, into our backyard, and do that. And that is just, it's life-giving to us. And we get to do this with like real people and get to know like real stories. And that changes everything. Like that just brings us alive. And so those are little ways that we've started shifting away from screens and into real lives that have, it's just brought us alive.
And next week, so the thing I want to do with this episode is next week, we're going to talk about the ways that some other decisions we're making to come alive in 2023, and some decisions that we have made as a family to propel us forward. And I hope that these episodes, these next couple weeks, are ones that will really get you and your spouse, you and your family starting to question, if you haven't already, like, what will bring us alive in 2023? What will get us free in 2023?
Ooh.
I'm going to nail that one right there. What will get you free in 2023? I'm going to slogan that one. It's probably already been trademarked and everything else. But what will get you free in 2023? What will help your family come alive?
Yeah.
Have you talked about those things? And again, they can be super simple. Like, we're talking about simplicity is what's bringing us alive. We talked about that in one of our words that matter for your family. I want you to end this episode by thinking about the screen. I want you to think about, is there a way that you could become more present by making a decision with your screen? And that, again, we're not asking you to move to a flip phone. That, no way, no how. If you're convicted for that, then go for it. There's a number of different phones out there now that are a way less sophisticated that could help you do that. But it might just be simply, filtering, deleting an app for a month, or it could simply be that you're not watching TV as much, or whatever it is for you. You find what it is for you that will help you be more present with your kids and with your family, because we genuinely believe that's what matters in being famous at home.
And can I also say, like, just present in your own life? I think so often we've become conditioned that observing other people's lives, i.e. like movies, TV, social media, is the norm. Like, whatever happened to actually just living our own lives?
That's a whole year's worth of episodes right there.
Yeah. So
that will preach. Okay, so check out the newsletter. Love for you to do that. If you have thoughts, topics that you want us to cover this year on the podcast, go visit famousathome.com/podcast.
We got something big to tell you next week too.
And we have some other big things coming. So keep in mind, until next week, that the greatest red carpet you will walk is through your front door.
Keep being famous at home. We love you.